this is Loyal to Law once again, and this is going to be a discussion video. And what I mean by discussion, in this video, I mean a really serious discussion. I made this video in response to the knockout game event, and as you all know, by the making of this video, during this time, the knockout game was just discovered or made up by teenagers in the East, since I live here in the US. I can't name the specific places because it's actually spreading around as we speak, and it's very dangerous. You hear a lot of or read a lot of news about people just being randomly punched or randomly kicked out of nowhere when they were just walking on the sidewalk, or when they just come out of their house about to tend their garden, or about to fix their car outside when they open the garage, within their property, within their house itself. And it's making me angry, honestly, because it's not. It used to be not like this here, or should I say, my perception when I came here, that I would not experience that anymore. I live in a place around a decade or so where crime is so rampant and so random, and it was so bad that people, even though they were just doing their daily chores, walking their daily lives outside, that it's normal for people to see a crime like that, and it would be very fortunate for the victims to be alive by those things. And the knockout game is just here, is just the mild version of the crimes that from the place where I came from when I lived there for 10 years. Their stealing was rampant, and just random sucker punches or random sucker kicks were rampant, and it was tough. I remember during those times when I would go outside, and I would literally, whenever I ride public transportations, I would literally be on the constant lookout, looking left and right, front and back, holding my pockets, always checking my belongings on me, especially on the things that I hold or the things that are not on my pockets. I always hold my bags, especially going to schools. Even the malls were not really safe, even though there were security guards all over the entrances and exits. It's because the assailants or the criminals would actually work as a group. They would actually work as a mini small syndicate, almost like professionals, and even using children just to lure their victims to do their own bidding. And yeah, that really actually, the knockout game incident actually opened the Pandora's box of everything that I've experienced before. And it's one of the reasons why I'm very thankful that I'm practicing martial arts, because martial arts actually amplified all of the things that I've had and trained unconsciously, like being aware of my surroundings, scenarios, like what weapons should I use in case of the worst case scenario and all that stuff. And I'm very thankful that I learned martial arts because of that. And since this is a discussion video, I'm going to actually share some of the tips, even though they're obvious. Some might not be very obvious and needed to be a reminder to some of us, on how to actually prevent yourself from being a victim of not only a knockout game, but for various instantaneous crimes where you'll just be a victim, because crime can happen anywhere. And would you believe that, okay, let me retract. Imagine the safest place that you've experienced going to. Like you really have nothing to worry about at all when you go to that place. You can relax, you can chill out, you can actually invite your friends and family there, so that you would just be free from all of this stress and anxiety of society every time you go out alone. Think about that safe place. Now, would you believe that that safe place that you thought is one of the least places where crime can just sprung on you? It's inconceivable, and you can't imagine that a crime would just erupt from there. And that's exactly what my experience from my place 10 years ago, or where I lived 10 years for that length of time, happens a lot. And it's really not that safe. And that's one of the reasons why the backyards there and the front yards there are entirely different from the front yards and backyards here. You can't even trust your neighbor there. And even when you do trust your neighbor, you always see to it that you actually have something for yourself to protect yourself, even against your neighbor that you're friends with. And it's a sad truth. And so, let me give you the tips on how not to be a victim, basing on experience, of course. Number 1, think like a criminal. Notice that I did not say act like a criminal. I said think. And the reason being is, criminals are still people, and therefore they still have the same limitations like you and me. The problem is that they just go on the other side of the spectrum. So if you're actually a very good citizen of the law of the land, they're just disobeying the law and they're going on the opposite spectrum. So you have to actually think like them in order to prevent the crimes where there's a possibility that you're going to be a victim with. An example of that would be thievery, where your house is just going to be barged in by thieves, especially very good ones. The very good ones would use, in the place where it came from, would use children to actually lure them to open the small locks and to teach them how to lockpick sometimes, because their arms or their bodies are very small and they can fit into tight spaces. And you would be surprised how they would fit themselves on those small spaces in order to enter your house. So if you know a passage where a thief would most likely go in, then you would concentrate on that passage and do all you can by locks, simple locks, or if you can afford, you can buy a security system, and so that you can immediately, or the security agency can immediately call 911 whenever you're outside your house, and have a dog, a guard dog. And when I say a guard dog, I mean literally a very deterrent guard dog. So it's not just like the dog that you pet, but a real dog that can really be nasty when the time is needed. So that's first. Think like a criminal. Second, be very aware of your surroundings. Now that's obvious, but most of us are aware of our surroundings whenever we just feel like it. So whenever we feel that we're going to be threatened, for example, especially in a public place, that's the only time where we practice being aware on our surroundings, where we look left and right, front and back. We even do this kind of looking where we use our peripheral vision in order to see what's happening without even letting anyone know here that you're actually looking at them, because you're having your face looking straight here. See, as I try to wave at the camera, I'm still looking on this direction, but I'm using my peripheral vision here. The problem with that is, yes, most of us just do that when we're conscious about it. But you have to extend that awareness further. You have to stretch it out by actually practicing it, even though you're not feeling threatened. So you just practice it. Like, if there are friends out there, you just look at the windows, look at the mirrors, look at every single thing that reflects, because through reflection you'll see the things that are behind you and the things that are on your blind spots. So be aware of that, and practice doing that so that you're going to actually have a bigger scope of sight and of awareness to your surroundings. So that's number 2. Number 3 is to always, as I said from the previous videos, is to always look at an escape route. If you can't see an escape route, it's going to be a really tough time for you when the worst case scenario happens. And this is just when the worst case scenario happens. You're not praying and you're not looking for a worst case scenario. You're preparing for it, just in case it happens. That's the reason why there's a word if, not when. But when it happens, then it's good that you're prepared. But for now, if. Okay? So you don't need to be paranoid about all of this stuff happening. So find escape routes. When you find escape routes, then you have to actually make a small plan, impromptu, just on your mind, on how to go through those escape routes. If you can't do that, practice at home or practice to your apartment. Remember the fire drills that you're doing in school, or the fire drills that you're doing in your work, or in your church, or in your worship places. If those fire drills help you remember that there's a fire exit and remember the correct pathway to go to those fire exits and escape from danger, from the fire, then you should also do the same when you have found all of the possible escape routes when the danger happens. So it's not just finding fire escapes. You have to also look and be creative on finding the fastest and most efficient routes in order for you to escape that danger. So that's that. The next is, and this is tricky, so I'm going to be very careful when I say this. During my experience, whenever I see people that I really feel are very suspicious, I go the other way. And a lot of people would say that that's actually very insulting. The fact of the matter is, 9 times out of 10 that I did that, I actually saved myself from people. If you're going to look out, or if you're going to search for the one of the earliest videos about the knockout incident that's running rampant lately, there was a teacher, a male teacher, who was holding a suitcase, and he was just passing by an alley with a group of teenagers going the other way. So the teacher's going this way, and there are a group of teenagers going here, on the opposite direction. He was aware, but his guard was down. And because he was just looking straight ahead, not minding other people's business, he was not looking around, he was not looking back. And the most important factor that you'll see on that video, or on that snippet, is that he didn't create space. And that's very important. Turns out that he almost brushed shoulder to shoulder with one of the teenagers there. And from that group of teenagers beside him, one of them just popped a soccer punch to his face, and he got knocked out, and he fell to the floor face down. And he could have prevented that if he was, first, very aware. Second, he planned an escape route, impromptu. And third, if he felt that these teenagers were really suspicious about their actions, especially them as a group, he could have created space, or he could have went in a different direction, or make a distraction for himself in a very subtle manner, like picking a phone, for example, like checking his text message or his voice messages, and actually putting his phone on his ear and then turn around and walk away, and he could have avoided the danger of the knockout game. See? So it's not just the criminal's part where we concentrate all the bad things, it's also our part, because we're actually making ourselves the victim of the situations like that. Of course, you can argue that it's instantaneous, you didn't expect it, and all that. That's the reason why I am leaning more on prevention rather than cure or solution. If you can prevent yourself from being a victim, that's 100, even 1,000 times better than actually solving the problem on that spot. Because by solving the problem on that spot, you would actually have to wait for an incident like that. Then that's the time you're going to solve the problem. See the flaw there? So it's better for prevention. It's better to prepare in order for you not to be the victim than to actually just make a solution after the incident happened. Last but not least is to actually plan your day. By planning your day, I mean whenever you go outside, you're not just going to wander around. You know the exact places where you need to go to. And in doing so, you actually make yourself safer, because you're just going to concentrate on the scenarios on those places, and you're not actually exposing yourself unnecessarily on places where you don't need to be. See? So whenever you want to go out, you should plan where you want to eat, or where you're going to go shopping, or where you're going to go grocery shopping, where you're going to buy gas, where you're going to buy things, where are you going to visit, where are you going to hang out. If you have a GPS on you, or if you search for MapQuest You use the map quest and you search where you're going to. You look for the places that are actually close to that vicinity so that you're not going to be too worried about where you're going to eat, and the other places where you can buy other things that are close to that vicinity. Because let's face it, not only are you saving gas when you do that, but you're also saving yourself because you have more direct places to go to instead of just wandering around, and it gives you a bigger chance of being the victim of a situation. So that's that. And when it comes to actually going the other way from the people that you think are very suspicious, don't mind them calling you a bunch of names. Don't mind them. Because I would rather be called a bunch of names in doing that when my intent was actually to prevent myself from being the victim, to save myself from the danger. The stigma might be there, and you may be tempted to walk past or to walk beside those very suspicious people. But if it actually saves your life, why not, right? As long as you know that they're very suspicious when it comes to their actions. So you need to know their body language, okay? It's not just because you see them wear like this, or you see them dress like this, or you see them having these things, or you see them act in this way naturally, that you would be very suspicious. You would actually need to learn how to read the body languages of people in order for you to know if they're very suspicious or not. Always think, how would a normal person act when he or she is going to walk by on the opposite direction beside me? Will she be just looking down on the cell phone, walking? Or will they just be quiet? Or will they do some kind of an abnormal body action? Abnormal meaning out of the norm, where it's very suspicious and very fishy. See? And I go back to that small snippet of the knockout game. So those are my tips of the things that have helped me a whole lot when it comes to situations like the knockout game. And it's sad to say, but because of that, you're actually going to lose your trust to people. And it's a preventative measure, but it's also heartbreaking because it shows that there's no peace on the place that you're living in anymore. When there's no peace and there's small spurts of chaos now and then, that's good. But if it's continuous and it's spreading, then people will live in fear. And when people will live in fear, how in the world will you call a group of people in a certain place a community? Everyone will just shut themselves out from the world. They don't want to talk to each other because of what's happening and all that. It's sad and heartbreaking, which is the reason why I made this video. Because I don't want to repeat my experience from that place when where I lived for 10 years. It's nasty. I was so afraid, in fact, that I needed to hold on to my wallet. Like literally hold on to it, even on my pocket, just to prevent from being pickpocketed. See that? And for those of you who are going to try or are in the middle of doing the knockout game, if worst comes to worst, your life will be the payment. Stop it. Okay? Stop knocking random people out. It's not funny, it's not a game. A knockout to a person is actually giving that person a 50-50 chance to live, because you rattled the brain. And there's a possibility that you will disconnect the brain from the vertebrae, make him or her paralyzed for his or her entire life. Worst case scenario, they'll take your life. So don't do it. If you're doing it now, stop it. So that's it for this video. I apologize for this being lengthy, but it needs to be made. It needs to be reiterated. I know that there are some channels out there who already made videos similar to this, but this is my take, and I hope that you learn even a small thing from this. Again, thank you for watching this video. God bless you all. Always train safe and take care.